They laughed as they humiliated the new black girl in the middle of the school hallway, convinced she was completely alone. One stolen backpack, one public shove, and one edited video were all it took to turn an entire school against her. The bullies thought they had picked the perfect victim, but they had no idea her older brother trained U.S. Marines at Parris Island, where discipline means never backing down from the truth. As lies spread, evidence vanished, and powerful adults joined the cover-up. The hunters slowly became the hunted. Write in the comments where you're watching this video from, and stay until the very end. You won't believe how this story ends. Amara Bennett had been inside Bayshore Atlantic High for less than 3 minutes when she realized the East Hallway was not designed to welcome students like her. Rows of steel lockers stretched beneath banners, celebrating the football team, while clusters of students leaned against the walls as though they owned every inch of the building, wearing a blue t-shirt, a white skirt, and a new student ID around her neck. Amara held 2 textbooks against her chest and searched for room 214. The hallway grew strangely quiet as she passed. Some students stared openly. Others whispered behind raised phones. Near the football lockers, Haley Knox looked Amara up and down before speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Is she the student they brought in to meet the diversity quota?" A few students laughed. Amara kept walking. She had promised herself that morning that no stranger would control her first day. But her silence only seemed to entertain them more. Colton Reeves stepped into her path with a polished smile that never reached his eyes. As captain of the football team and son of the district school board president, he moved like someone who had never heard the word no. "You must be new," he said. Did anyone explain the rules behind him? Ryan Maddox quietly raised his phone and started recording. Before Amara could answer, Wesley Pike pulled the books from her arms and tossed one to Colton. Haley snatched Amara's ID card. Then, "Read the address printed beneath her name." "Military housing," she said. "So you don't even have a normal family." The laughter grew louder. Amara extended her hand. "Give me my things back." Colton dropped both books onto the floor and slowly pushed them with his shoe into a puddle of spilled water. When Amara bent down to retrieve them, Wesley shoved her shoulder. Her back struck the wall hard enough to make the lockers rattle. Amara rose quickly as Wesley reached for her again. She caught his wrist not to hurt him, but to stop his hand inches from her face. Ryan moved closer, carefully filming only that moment. He had missed the stolen books, the insults, and the shove, because those details did not fit the story they wanted to create. "Let go of me," Wesley shouted theatrically. At that exact moment, history teacher Rachel Monroe turned the corner. Colton's smile disappeared, replaced by a look of practiced concern. She attacked him. He said, "We were only helping her find her class." Rachel saw Wesley's wrist in Amara's hand and the phones pointed toward them. She hesitated. That hesitation was all Colton needed. Within minutes, Amara was being escorted to the discipline office, while the students behind her whispered that the new girl had lost control on her first morning. Vice Principal Meredith Sloan did not ask whether Amara had been pushed or injured. She sat behind her desk, folded her hands, and asked, "Why did you use physical force against another student?" Every time Amara tried to explain, Meredith interrupted. She described Amara's self-defense as aggression and suggested that students raised around military environments often learn to solve problems through violence. When Lena Ortiz appeared at the doorway and said she had seen Colton throw the books, Meredith ordered her back to class. "False statements can lead to suspension," she warned. Lena's face went pale. But before leaving, she looked at Amara with an expression that said she was telling the truth. Meredith placed a confession form on the desk. It claimed Amara had become angry after being teased and had deliberately attacked Wesley. Amara read every line. At the bottom, She noticed the printing timestamp. The form had been produced nearly 10 minutes before the confrontation occurred. It had not been written in response to the incident. It had been prepared for her. Amara pushed the pen away. Principal Clayton Ward entered and warned that refusing to cooperate would make her record considerably worse. He offered not to contact her guardian if she signed immediately. Amara looked directly at him. A lie doesn't become true just because it's printed on paper with the school's logo. Ward's expression hardened. He confiscated her ID and banned her from extracurricular activities pending investigation. As Amara stepped back into the hallway, dozens of phones sounded at once. Ryan had uploaded an edited clip titled, "New Girl Attacks Football Star on Her First Day." The video began with Amara holding Wesley's wrist and ended before anyone could question what happened earlier. Views climbed by the second. Beneath it, Haley had written one sentence: "This was only the welcome." Amara did not yet know that the video was merely the first move. The next afternoon, Colton planned to turn online isolation into public humiliation in front of the entire cafeteria. By lunchtime, the edited video had spread through nearly every phone at Bayshore Atlantic High. Amara Bennett could feel its effect before she even entered the cafeteria. Conversations lowered when she walked past, then restarted in whispers behind her. Some students stared as though they had already decided what kind of person she was. Others opened the video again, comparing the girl on their screens with the one carrying a lunch tray through the crowded room. Nearly 400 students filled the cafeteria, yet every time Amara approached an empty seat, someone quietly pulled the chair away or placed a backpack across it. The message was clear: Ryan's video had done what Colton wanted. It had turned Amara into a threat before anyone bothered to ask what had happened. Near the back wall, Lena Ortiz lifted her hand and subtly pointed to the seat beside her. Amara had barely sat down when Haley Knox arrived with several girls behind her, surrounding the table like an audience gathering before a show. Colton Reeves, followed with Wesley Pike and Ryan Maddox. Ryan already had his phone in hand. Colton placed a sealed milk carton in front of Amara and smiled. "A peace offering," he announced loudly. Since some people don't know how to behave on their first day, a few students laughed. Amara did not touch the carton. "Move," she said calmly. Colton's smile widened. He picked up the milk and slowly poured it over her head. Giving everyone enough time to raise their phones, the cold liquid ran through her hair, down her neck, and across her blue shirt. Before she could stand, Wesley grabbed her tray and flipped the noodles and red sauce across her white skirt. The cafeteria erupted with laughter. Ryan climbed onto a chair to capture a better angle, while Haley began chanting, "Apologize, apologize." Several students joined in, repeating that Amara should say sorry for attacking Wesley the previous morning. Amara rose without swinging at anyone. Her hands trembled, but she kept them at her sides. "Get out of my way," she said. "I need to clean this off." Colton placed a hand on her shoulder and forced her back toward the chair. Leaning close, he whispered, "My father decides who gets believed around here. You never had a chance." Amara knocked his hand away. Colton immediately threw himself backward and crashed onto the floor as though she had shoved him with all her strength. Two teachers rushed across the cafeteria, but they arrived only in time to see Colton lying on the ground and Amara standing over him, covered in food and milk. Ryan stopped recording before anyone could see what had happened earlier. Vice Principal Meredith Sloan appeared almost instantly. Too quickly for someone who had supposedly known nothing about the confrontation, she ordered a security officer to remove Amara, but she did not take Ryan's phone, question Wesley, or ask why Amara was soaked from head to toe. In front of hundreds of students, Meredith announced that Amara had violated her disciplinary warning and could now face suspension. Lena stood up and shouted that Colton had staged the fall. Haley turned toward her and whispered that she would tell everyone. Lena's mother was working illegally at a restaurant. The accusation was false, but Lena knew how quickly a lie could destroy a family once it began spreading online. Fear silenced her voice, yet her phone remained hidden beneath the table, recording nearly everything. Inside the restroom, Amara realized the liquid in her hair was not ordinary milk. Her scalp had begun to burn. The school nurse examined the redness and quietly admitted it looked like chemical irritation, possibly caused by a mild cleaning agent. Meredith entered before the nurse completed the report and instructed her to record the cause as unknown. Rachel Monroe, standing just outside the door, heard every word. Later that afternoon, Lena tried to send Amara the video, but Wesley and Ryan trapped her near the rear staircase. They forced her to unlock her phone, deleted the recording, cleared the recently deleted folder, and smashed the device against the floor. They walked away, convinced the evidence was gone. What they did not know was that Lena's phone automatically backed up videos to the school media club's cloud folder, where Ethan Cho had access. Amara returned to the discipline office with her scalp still red and demanded that the milk carton be preserved as evidence. Meredith claimed a cafeteria worker had already thrown it away. Amara stared at her. Why would anyone destroy something connected to a student's injury? Principal Clayton Ward stepped from the adjoining office and accused her of inventing a discrimination story to avoid punishment. Before the day ended, a security officer opened Amara's locker and discovered the same milk carton inside, along with a note that read, "Next time will be stronger." Meredith immediately declared it proof that Amara had planted the evidence herself. But in the media room, Ethan opened Lena's recovered video and froze the image. Seconds before the humiliation began, an adult had handed the carton to Haley. He was not a student. He was a member of the football coaching staff, and before Ethan could expose him, the school was already preparing an accusation, serious enough to bring the police. The next morning, Amara had barely reached the second-floor hallway when security officer Dale Mercer stepped in front of her and ordered her to stay away from her locker. His voice was loud enough to attract attention, and within seconds, students began gathering along both sides of the corridor. Dale announced that the school had received an anonymous report claiming Amara had brought a weapon onto campus. Without waiting for an independent witness, he used the school's master key and opened her locker. Wrapped inside a blue cloth was a folding knife. Beside it lay a note with Colton's name written across the top and one sentence beneath it, "You will pay." Amara stared at the knife. Then at Dale. She had never seen either item before. Still, he pulled her hands behind her back in full view of the students. Ryan was already filming from the end of the hall. Colton stood nearby with Coach Troy Reeves, wearing an expression of carefully practiced shock. Troy demanded that the police be called immediately, claiming Colton's life was in danger. The speed of his reaction made it seem as though he had been waiting for the knife to appear. Inside the security interview room, Vice Principal Meredith Sloan placed the weapon on the table inside a plastic bag and told Amara that confessing would make everything easier. She claimed the school could ask the police to treat the incident as a juvenile mistake if Amara admitted bringing the knife to retaliate after the cafeteria confrontation. Amara refused. She requested the hallway camera footage and a list of everyone with access to the locker's master key. Principal Clayton Ward said the camera had lost its signal because of a wiring failure. Dale insisted that only Amara could open the locker, even though the key he had just used remained on his belt. Every answer contradicted something visible in the room. Rachel Monroe entered and demanded that the questioning stop until Amara's legal guardian arrived. Meredith reluctantly opened the emergency contact file. Amara's guardian was her older brother, Gunnery Sergeant Darius Bennett, a Marine drill instructor stationed at Parris Island. Meredith called him with open contempt and introduced him to Ward as some kind of physical training coach. Darius ignored the insult. His voice remained controlled as he asked a series of direct questions. Was Amara injured? Had the knife been sealed in an evidence bag? Who had touched it? Was the locker search recorded? Had local police been notified before or after the search? Meredith could not answer any question completely. Darius informed her that he was leaving Parris Island immediately and ordered them not to continue questioning Amara without a guardian or attorney present. He never raised his voice, but the silence that followed made everyone in the room noticeably uncomfortable. While Meredith spoke to Ward, Amara noticed the search report lying near the edge of the desk. Dale's signature was marked at 742A. M. Yet the camera at the front entrance had recorded Amara arriving at 755, and the locker had not been opened until after 8. The so-called surprise search had been documented before she was even inside the building. Amara memorized the time but said nothing. If they knew she had noticed it, they could replace the form before Darius arrived. She had learned enough in 2 days to understand that the people in that room were not investigating facts. They were arranging them. Troy Reeves entered without knocking and demanded Amara's immediate expulsion. He said a student with violent tendencies had no place near the football program. Amara looked at him and asked why a football coach was allowed to participate in the disciplinary interrogation of a student who was not on his team. Troy's face tightened. Ward quickly defended him, claiming Troy was present because Colton had been threatened. At the same time, Ethan Cho tried to contact Rachel and send her the recovered cafeteria video. His school account suddenly locked him out. His files disappeared, one by one. Someone knew he had opened Lena's backup as Darius drove away from Parris Island. His phone received one final message before Ethan's account vanished completely. Coach Troy gave Haley the chemical carton. I have the video. Seconds later, the fire alarm screamed through Bayshore Atlantic High. Smoke began pouring from the camera server room as students rushed into the hallway. The evidence that could prove Amara had been framed was being destroyed in real time. But whoever started the fire did not know the school's surveillance system stored another copy, somewhere beyond the principal's control. By the time Gunnery Sergeant Darius Bennett arrived at Bayshore Atlantic High, the smell of smoke still lingered over the campus. Fire trucks lined the parking lot, while firefighters continued inspecting the damaged server room that had triggered the afternoon evacuation. Students gathered in small groups behind the safety barriers, whispering about the fire, the knife, and the new girl who had somehow become the center of every rumor within 3 days. Darius stepped out of his truck, wearing his Marine Service uniform, but he carried himself without the slightest trace of arrogance. He did not march toward the principal's office demanding authority or expecting special treatment. His first concern was finding his sister. The moment he saw Amara sitting quietly on a bench outside the administration building, he knelt beside her, gently moved a strand of hair away from her face, and examined the irritated burn on her scalp. "Did anyone force you to sign anything?" he asked. Amara shook her head. "No. They tried. I refused." Darius nodded once. "Good. From this point on, you don't answer another question without me." Only then did he stand and walk toward the waiting administrators. Principal Clayton Ward greeted him with a polished smile that seemed rehearsed. He described the fire as an unfortunate electrical accident and assured Darius that the school was doing everything possible to protect every student involved. Darius listened without interrupting. When Ward finished, Darius calmly removed a small notebook from his pocket and began asking for specific documents. He requested the official locker search authorization, the evidence log showing who had handled the knife, the chain of custody report for the evidence bag, Amara's medical report concerning the chemical burn, the hallway surveillance footage recorded before the fire, and the original handwritten threat found inside her locker. Ward's expression slowly hardened. Anebuwan. He refused each request, claiming student privacy laws prevented him from releasing the documents. Darius never argued. Instead, he called the family's attorney in front of everyone and then formally requested that the responding police officers document possible evidence tampering before anything inside the administration office could be altered. His calm professionalism made the room far more uncomfortable than shouting ever could have. Coach Troy Reeves leaned against the doorway with crossed arms and an amused smile. "A military man should understand," he said, "that sometimes a few people have to be removed to protect the larger group." The room fell silent. Darius looked directly at him before answering. "I train Marines to accept responsibility for every decision they make." "You're teaching children that power can erase responsibility." Troy immediately accused Darius of using his military uniform to intimidate school employees. Without hesitation, Darius removed his cover, placed it gently on the conference table, and replied, "Then let's remove the uniform from the conversation. I'm here as Amara's legal guardian. Nothing more." The simple gesture completely undermined Troy's attempt to paint him as an aggressive soldier. Even the officers standing nearby exchanged quiet glances as the tension shifted away from Darius and toward the school administration. As the meeting continued, Darius carefully examined the evidence bag containing the folding knife. Years of military experience had trained him to notice details other people overlooked. The evidence seal had clearly been applied twice. The adhesive line overlapped unevenly, suggesting the bag had been opened after it was supposedly secured. The collection information had also been written using 2 different colors of ink. More importantly, a thin streak of red industrial paint remained near the knife's handle. It looked identical to the marking paint commonly used to label equipment inside athletic storage rooms. Troy noticed where Darius was looking and immediately insisted the meeting should end before false assumptions spread further. His sudden urgency only deepened everyone's suspicion. A local detective entered the office carrying preliminary laboratory information. The officer explained that the initial fingerprint examination had found no identifiable prints belonging to Amara Bennett. Instead, investigators had recovered a partial print matching Wesley Pike, whose fingerprints had previously been entered into the juvenile system after a property vandalism investigation. The detective added another unexpected discovery. The knife's serial number matched a survival kit purchased months earlier through the football program's equipment budget. Troy quickly argued that dozens of students and staff members could have handled the knife over time. But he could not explain why athletic equipment had somehow found its way into Amara's locker. The room grew noticeably quieter as Ward avoided eye contact with the investigators. While everyone focused on the knife, Caleb Foster, the school's network administrator, quietly asked Darius to step into the hallway. Speaking barely above a whisper, Caleb revealed that the server room door could only be opened using an employee access card. According to the electronic entry log, Principal Ward's security badge had unlocked the server room exactly 4 minutes before the fire alarm activated. When confronted later, Ward insisted he had lost his badge earlier that afternoon. Caleb calmly reminded Darius that Ward had used the same badge to enter his office only minutes before the evacuation. The explanation simply did not fit the digital records. Before Caleb could say anything more, another staff member called him away. As dusk settled over the campus, Darius's phone vibrated. An unknown number had sent a single photograph showing Lena Ortiz standing outside her own house. Completely unaware someone was watching her, beneath the image appeared one sentence: "Leave the school, or the next witness pays the price." Darius looked from the message to Amara, and for the first time since arriving, genuine concern crossed his face. Whoever was orchestrating the cover-up was no longer satisfied with destroying evidence. They had begun targeting children willing to tell the truth. That night, while Darius worked to protect Amara, Lena, and Ethan, a football program pickup truck quietly pulled onto the road behind the only witness still carrying the original video. Darius took Amara to Lena Ortiz's house before sunset. Unwilling to leave the girl alone after receiving the threatening photograph, Lena's mother stood in the doorway with one hand pressed against her chest, while Lena explained what had happened. Wesley had smashed her phone near the rear staircase, and Haley had continued sending messages, claiming she could get Lena's mother fired by spreading rumors about her immigration status and job. None of the accusations were true, but truth no longer seemed to matter at Bayshore Atlantic High. Fear moved faster. Lena admitted she had nearly deleted everything just to make the pressure stop. Amara listened in silence, guilt building in her face. Before she could speak, Ethan Cho called. His voice was low and urgent. He said he had copied the cafeteria footage onto a portable hard drive and wanted to hand it directly to Darius because he no longer trusted any school account. Computer, or administrator. They agreed to meet near the old athletic storage area outside campus. Ethan noticed the truck 10 minutes into the drive. It was dark blue, with the Bayshore football logo on the door, and it remained 3 cars behind him, through every turn. He changed direction twice, then took the narrow road running beside the marshland. But the truck followed. Ethan called Lena and shared his live location without explaining why. Moments later, the truck accelerated and blocked the road near an abandoned equipment warehouse. Wesley climbed out first. Ryan followed more slowly, holding his phone but not filming. Wesley demanded the hard drive. Ryan insisted they only wanted to erase the video and that nobody needed to get hurt. Ethan backed away, clutching his backpack, then turned and ran toward the warehouse. Wesley caught him near the edge of a drainage canal. During the struggle, Ethan dropped the bag. Wesley shoved him hard, sending him down the muddy bank toward the water. Police headlights appeared before Wesley could follow. Darius had tracked Ethan's location through Lena and contacted local officers on the way. He reached Ethan first and pulled him safely away from the canal. Wesley immediately claimed he had only been following Colton's instructions. Ryan said nothing and refused to unlock his phone. His fear was obvious, but so was the reason for his silence messages from Coach Troy Reeves were still stored inside. Troy arrived minutes later with an attorney, acting as though he had been summoned to correct a misunderstanding. He claimed Ethan had stolen private football program property and that Wesley and Ryan had merely tried to recover it. Then he threatened legal action against Ethan's family for unauthorized access to school files. Darius understood the strategy immediately. Every witness would be accused of theft, hacking, defamation, or misconduct until the evidence itself appeared tainted. Troy did not need to prove Ethan was guilty. He only needed to make everyone afraid to trust him. Wesley grabbed the portable drive from the fallen backpack and smashed it against the concrete before the officers could stop him. The casing split apart beneath his shoe. Troy's shoulders relaxed for the first time that evening. Then Ethan, still covered in mud, looked directly at him and said the drive had contained nothing but decoy files. The real video had already been transferred automatically to the media club's broadcast server. Ryan's face went pale. Uncle Troy said that server had already been taken care of, he shouted. The words escaped before he could stop them. Every officer heard him. Troy turned sharply toward Ryan. But the damage was done. Ryan had just revealed that Troy knew about the effort to destroy school data before the public had been told anything about it. Lauder, Caleb Foster contacted Darius and explained that an older backup system still existed at the district administrative center. It had been installed years earlier and could contain the original surveillance records. However, someone had recently changed the access permissions using a school board level account. The account belonged to Franklin Reeves, Colton's father and the president of the district board. The conspiracy had now moved beyond a coach and a principal. It reached the authority responsible for supervising the entire school system. On the drive home, Amara finally broke. She told Darius that his arrival had made everything worse. Lena had been threatened. Ethan had nearly been pushed into the canal. And Caleb was risking his job. She said signing the confession might be the only way to stop people from getting hurt. Darius did not dismiss her fear. "I can't promise nobody will suffer because they tell the truth," he said quietly. "But if you confess to something you didn't do, they'll use your words against every student who came before you." He paused before adding, "Sometimes they don't need you to commit a crime. They just need you exhausted enough to confess to one." That night, Caleb called again, this time in panic. He had found system logs proving the hallway cameras had never lost signal. On the morning, the knife appeared. Before he could send the files, the call ended abruptly. Darius drove to Caleb's apartment and found the front door broken, the computer missing, and the rooms torn apart. Across the wall, someone had written, "The next accident will leave no witness." Caleb was gone. At the same time, Amara received an official order to return to school for a disciplinary review. Colton's group was already preparing the next trap: a locked room, a camera, and a confession they intended to force from her. Despite the ongoing investigation, Bayshore Atlantic High ordered Amara to return for a formal suspension review. Darius was delayed while speaking with police about Caleb's disappearance, leaving Amara alone near the stadium office for several minutes. That was all Haley needed. She rushed toward Amara with panic written across her face. "Colton has Lena," she whispered. They took her into the storage room beneath the bleachers. Amara knew it could be a trap, but she could not risk Lena being hurt. She followed Haley through the narrow corridor beneath the stadium. The moment Amara entered the old equipment room, the door slammed shut behind her. Colton, Wesley, and Ryan were waiting inside. Lena was nowhere to be seen. Ryan mounted his phone on a metal shelf while Colton handed Amara a prepared statement. It claimed that she had brought the chemical carton herself, planted the knife to frame the football team, attacked Colton out of jealousy, and encouraged Darius to use his uniform to intimidate school officials. Read it clearly. Colton ordered, or Haley posts Lena's address and destroys her mother's reputation. Amara tore the paper in half. Wesley locked the door and grabbed her arms. Amara used the escape technique Darius had taught her, twisting free only far enough to create distance. She did not strike his face or attempt to injure him. Colton shoved a metal equipment rack toward her, but Amara stepped aside. The rack crashed onto Wesley's shoulder. "She attacked us," Colton shouted immediately. Ryan recorded the aftermath. Believing the video was being saved only to his phone, Amara spotted an old fire alarm lever behind a hanging curtain and pulled it. Sirens exploded throughout the stadium. Security officer Dale Mercer arrived first. Instead of unlocking the room and checking Amara, he seized Ryan's phone and tried to delete the recording. Seconds later, Rachel Monroe, Darius, and two police officers entered the corridor. They found the door locked from the outside, the torn confession on the floor, and Dale holding Ryan's phone. Colton began crying and claimed Amara had lured them into the room, but his performance ended when shouting erupted from the football field. Ryan's phone had automatically connected to the media club's experimental broadcast system. The entire ambush, the threats, the forced confession, Wesley grabbing Amara, and Dale attempting to erase the evidence had been shown live on the stadium scoreboard. Cheerleaders, players, parents, and school employees had watched everything. Troy Reeves arrived and accused Darius of arranging the broadcast to humiliate Colton. Darius answered calmly, "I didn't know the system was active." For the first time, Rachel publicly defended Amara. She confirmed that the door had been locked from outside and that Dale had tried to destroy evidence. Principal Ward still insisted they needed to review the full context, provoking angry protests from parents. When police searched Ryan's phone, they discovered a group chat titled, "Clean the Field." One message from Troy read, "No injuries above the collar. We only need to make her look dangerous." The most recent messages had been sent to a contact saved as F. Reeves bored. The live broadcast had shattered the school's cover-up, but Colton's father was already using his authority to arrange an emergency hearing with Amara's expulsion prepared before she even entered the room. The emergency hearing was held inside the Beaufort County Board of Education chamber, where television cameras, anxious parents, attorneys, and school officials packed every available seat. Franklin Reeves claimed the meeting had been called to protect student safety. To appear impartial, he stepped away from the chairman's seat. But the 3 remaining board members had all received donations from the Reeves Family Foundation. On the table before them sat a completed recommendation calling for Amara Bennett's permanent expulsion. The district attorney presented the school's version of events, as though the conclusion had already been decided. He played the edited hallway video, showed the moment Amara knocked Colton's hand away in the cafeteria, mentioned the knife found inside her locker, and displayed photographs of Wesley's injured shoulder. Darius's calls to school employees were described as military pressure against civilian educators. The live stadium broadcast was dismissed as unverified footage that might have been manipulated. Darius remained composed. He pointed out that the locker search form had been signed before Amara arrived. The knife came from football equipment. Wesley's fingerprint was found on the handle, and the storage room door had been locked from outside. He raised the forced confession, Troy's message ordering that no injuries be left above the collar, and the access record showing Ward's badge entering the server room minutes before the fire. Franklin leaned back and called everything speculation. He accused Darius of attacking the reputation of a family that had given millions to the district. Before Darius could answer, Amara stood. "If I am lying," she said, her voice steady. "Why did the school need a fire? Deleted videos, altered reports, and threats against witnesses to prove it. Why does it take this much destruction to make one 16-year-old girl look guilty?" The chamber fell silent. Then the doors opened. State education investigator Simone Harris entered beside Caleb Foster. Gasps spread through the room. Caleb had not been kidnapped. After his apartment was broken into, he had gone directly to the state education office and entered temporary witness protection. Before leaving, he had copied the system logs. Those records proved that the hallway cameras had never failed. The footage had been deleted manually from Meredith Sloan's office. Ward's account had disabled a fire alert. Franklin Reeves had changed access permissions on the district backup server. Troy Reeves had entered the athletic equipment room the night before the knife appeared. Simone then revealed something even larger. The state had received 17 complaints in 4 years, mostly from Black, Latino, and scholarship students. 12 had been suspended or forced to transfer after accusing football players. In 8 cases, cameras had supposedly failed at the exact moment evidence was needed. Simone displayed one final email sent by Ward to Troy and Franklin. "Students can be replaced. Funding and championships cannot." Franklin stood abruptly and left the chamber. Before exiting, he sent a single message from his phone. Seconds later, an alert appeared on Caleb's laptop. Someone had just entered Bayshore Atlantic High's old disciplinary records archive. While every camera remained focused on the hearing, someone was trying to destroy the files of 17 former victims, and the person inside the archive was not Franklin. It was someone Amara had believed was merely too afraid to speak. Police reached Bayshore Atlantic High's records archive minutes after Caleb's warning. Inside, they found Rachel Monroe, standing beside an industrial shredder with a box of disciplinary files in her arms. For several tense seconds, everyone assumed she had been sent to destroy the evidence. Rachel immediately raised her hands and explained that she had entered using an old staff access card, but not to erase the records. She had come to save them before Meredith Sloan arrived. Hidden beneath the files was another box containing copies of complaints Rachel had secretly collected over 3 years. She admitted that she had once watched a student being pressured into signing a false confession and had said nothing. Ward had threatened to terminate her contract, which would have cost her the health insurance paying for her son's treatment. Rachel's fear had been real, but so had the damage caused by her silence. Amara did not offer easy forgiveness. "I understand why you were afraid," she said. "But the students who lost scholarships, schools, and reputations had to live with what your silence allowed." Rachel lowered her eyes and agreed to testify publicly, even if it cost her career or led to a lawsuit. She would not be treated as a flawless hero. She would have to accept responsibility and help repair what she had failed to stop. Meanwhile, the group that had targeted Amara began collapsing. Ryan agreed to cooperate and surrendered the original videos, copies of the Clean the Field messages, and folders labeled with the names of previous victims. Haley admitted that Meredith had given her private information from student records so she could spread rumors and isolate anyone preparing a complaint. Wesley confessed that Colton had handed him the knife, but Troy had shown him how to place it inside Amara's locker and instructed Dale Mercer to open it at the correct time. Troy responded by blaming Colton for everything. That was when Colton realized his own family intended to sacrifice him. He gave investigators a secret recording made inside Franklin's car. In it, Franklin said, "If this collapses, Colton is a minor. He'll face fewer consequences than we will." Troy answered, "The boy only has to say he acted because she provoked him." The recording proved that the adults had deliberately used teenagers to carry out the scheme. Later, Colton approached Amara and asked her to admit that he was not the worst person involved. Amara refused. "Adults using you does not erase the times you chose to humiliate someone," she said. Before police could search Franklin's office, they discovered that he had already left town with a hard drive containing original financial records and confidential settlement agreements. His vehicle signal stopped at a Riverside warehouse owned by the Reeves Athletic Foundation. Inside the building, a fuel system had been opened and a timer activated. The evidence tied to 17 families was about to burn. At the same time, another emergency was developing back at the school, forcing Darius to choose between pursuing Franklin and protecting Amara from one final trap. Darius did not chase Franklin Reeves on his own. He gave the vehicle location to the police, shared every detail with Simone Harris, and followed the official response team toward the Riverside warehouse owned by the Reeves Athletic Foundation. He understood that one reckless move could give Franklin exactly what he wanted: a chance to claim intimidation, contamination of evidence, or unlawful interference. At the same time, Amara stood inside the Bayshore Atlantic High Auditorium, where hundreds of students had been gathered for an emergency announcement. She had been asked to speak briefly and calm the fear spreading through the school. Before she could begin, the electronic doors locked, warning alarms blared, and a manipulated video appeared on the main screen. It accused Amara of staging the entire scandal for attention. Ethan examined the system and identified the account controlling the broadcast. It belonged to Principal Ward. The goal was obvious: create panic, turn the students against Amara, and distract everyone. While Franklin destroyed the remaining records, Amara did not run. She took the microphone and told the crowd that the electronic locks had failed, but the mechanical emergency exits still worked. Using the crisis control lessons Darius had taught her, she directed students row by row instead of allowing everyone to rush at once. Her calm voice prevented a stampede. At the warehouse, police found Franklin pouring fuel across boxes of documents. Inside were original videos from 17 bullying cases, forced confidentiality agreements, coerced transfer records, invoices showing donor money used for settlements, lists of threatened teachers, bonus payments tied to football victories, and medical reports altered to minimize student injuries. Franklin activated a timer and tried escaping through a rear door, Darius smelled the fuel but did not charge into the building alone. He helped clear the area and showed firefighters where the ignition system was located. When Franklin was caught, he laughed and claimed the most important hard drive had already been destroyed. Caleb Foster answered through a secure call. Years earlier, after noticing suspicious deletions, he had created a distributed backup system. Whenever a file was erased, an encrypted copy was sent to the district's insurance archive. Every video, payment record, and settlement agreement had survived. Franklin had nothing left to bargain with. As officers placed him under arrest, he blamed donors, championship pressure, and the fear of losing the school's budget. Darius looked at him and said, "Pressure explains why you were afraid. It does not justify choosing the most vulnerable children to pay for it." Back at the school, Ward and Meredith were arrested while attempting to leave through a rear exit. The doors were reopened, and no students were injured. Then Caleb restored the complete hallway video from Amara's first day. It showed Colton blocking her path, Wesley pushing her, and Ryan deliberately cutting the footage, but the final detail silenced everyone. At the far end of the hallway, Meredith had been standing there before the confrontation began. She had not merely covered up what happened afterward. She had watched the trap being set and allowed it to happen. The truth was finally restored. But Amara refused to let the story end. With a few arrests, she demanded that the district face every name erased from its hallways before hers. 3 months later, the auditorium at Bayshore Atlantic High was filled with students, parents, former victims, state investigators, and members of a newly appointed administration. The school district formally announced the consequences of the investigation. Franklin Reeves had been charged with conspiracy to obstruct justice, destruction of evidence, misuse of education funds, and witness intimidation. Troy Reeves faced charges for arranging planted evidence, supplying the chemical used against Amara, directing students to threaten witnesses, and participating in the break-in at Caleb Foster's apartment. Clayton Ward had been fired, stripped of his administrative authority during the investigation, and charged with falsifying records and sabotaging school data. Meredith Sloan faced prosecution for altering student files, leaking private information to Haley, and helping manufacture accusations. Dale Mercer was suspended and investigated for conducting an illegal locker search, giving false testimony, and attempting to erase video evidence. The students involved were held accountable according to their individual actions. Colton was transferred, placed in a juvenile justice program, and ordered to participate in restorative proceedings. Wesley faced consequences for planting the knife, attacking Ethan, and threatening Lena. Ryan received limited consideration for cooperating, but he was still punished for editing videos, spreading false content, and assisting in the forced confession. Haley was disciplined for online harassment, leaking private student information, and threatening a witness's family. No child was allowed to become a convenient scapegoat for the adults who had directed the scheme. Amara insisted that clearing her record could not be treated as the end. The district transferred camera control to an independent provider, required 2 levels of approval for deleting footage, mandated recorded locker searches with outside witnesses, and prohibited administrators from changing medical reports. An anonymous reporting system was placed under state supervision. Donors and coaches were banned from disciplinary decisions. The cases of 17 former students were reopened. A legal and counseling fund was created, and the football program was placed under independent oversight for 3 years. When Amara stepped onto the stage, she refused to describe herself as a helpless girl, rescued by a Marine brother. "My brother did not come here to frighten them," she said. "He came to remind them that records, evidence, and responsibility do not disappear because powerful people want them to. Darius sat below the stage without his uniform. When invited to speak, he said, "Discipline is not making weaker people fear you. Discipline is protecting your character when you have enough power to do the opposite." Then, he made it clear that Amara had been the courageous one. She had endured the pressure, remembered the details, and refused to become the violent image they had tried to create. Lena apologized for nearly withdrawing her statement. Amara told her that courage did not mean feeling no fear. It meant choosing what was right after fear arrived. Ethan became the head of an independent student media system. Caleb helped design the district's protected archive. Rachel kept her job. But she testified publicly about her silence and spent months helping former families repair their records. Later, Amara returned to the east hallway. Colton's locker was empty. Inside her own locker, she found 17 small notes, each bearing the name of a student once forced to leave. The final note read, "Thank you for refusing to sign the lie they prepared for you." At the far end of the hallway, a new girl stood alone with books in her arms. Amara walked over, picked up the book she had dropped, and said, "Come with me. I'll show you where your classroom is." Before the day ended, Simone called Darius. The recovered records showed that 3 other schools had used the same false disciplinary form. Darius looked at Amara. She did not hesitate. Then it is time they learn that silence no longer protects them. Powerful people may write a lie into a record, but when one person refuses to sign it, the truth still has a chance to survive. Justice was never about revenge. It was about refusing to let lies become history. Amara didn't win because she was stronger than everyone else. She won because she refused to sign a lie, even when an entire system tried to force her into silence. And in the end, it wasn't just one girl's name that was cleared. It was the voices of 17 forgotten students that were finally heard. If you had been standing in that hallway on Amara's first day, what would you have done, spoken up, or stayed silent? Let us know in the comments below. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories about courage and AVU-A. Justice. And the people who refuse to back down when the truth is on the line.